All right, we are back with lesson 8.2. We're going to be adding integers today, positive and negative numbers. So I've used some number lines to find sums of positive numbers which involve movement to the right. Now you will find sums with negative numbers which involve movement to the left. And if we were actually in school, I would have had this nice little number line for you to use. Obviously we're not in chapter 6. But integers are whole numbers. There's no fractions or decimals as integers. But that doesn't mean we can't have a positive or negative fraction. That would just be called a rational number, not an integer. So feel free, if you want to use a number line to help in the beginning for adding and subtracting, it can be helpful. Just Google one, print one off if you can, make one if you want. But here, so using number lines to find sums. Sum is obviously to add. 4 plus a negative 4. They'll always put it in parentheses just so it doesn't get kind of confusing seeing symbols right next to each other, because this is obviously an addition symbol, and we wouldn't use a positive symbol in front. We would just assume it's positive. So using a number line, you're always going to start from 0, and you're going to add 4, that's the first number, and then you're going to subtract 4. And obviously you're ending up at 0, so 4 plus a negative 4 is 0. So negative 1 plus a negative 3. Here we have two negatives, so we're still going to start at 0. We're going to subtract 1, that's our starting point, and then we're going to subtract 3 more. So we're ending up at negative 4. And then a negative 2 plus negative 6. Starting at 0, the first thing you're going to do is go to the negative 2, and then you're going to jump backwards 6, and clearly you're ending on the 4. So we're going to try that with these three numbers. But before I get to that, I have this nice little chart that I found, and I also included this link. I just got it from Pinterest, so if you want to copy it you can, but you can also click on the link in my Google Slideshow and it'll take you right to this little chart. So just kind of a little cheat sheet. It's nice to have, so if you can't get to the link, I would definitely copy this, or if you can get to the link and if you want to print it and then just glue it in your notes, that would be fine too, whatever works. But just a little cheat sheet. So when you have integer signs, when you have two positive numbers, you're just going to add, and your answer is obviously going to be a positive number, just like basic numbers. 2 plus 5, that's obviously going to be 7. Now when we have two negative numbers, you're still going to add them. You're just going to ignore the symbols. You're going to add them, but then your symbol, your answer, will be a negative. So negative 2 plus negative 5. Well, I'm just going to add 2 plus 5 is 7, and then I'm going to keep that negative symbol there. And if this is confusing, use a number line and actually do that jumping back and forth like those examples. All right, now when we have a positive and a negative, you're going to subtract the 2. And then your larger number is going to be the sign in your answer. So I have a 2 plus negative 5. I'm going to ignore both symbols and I'm going to subtract. 5 minus 2 is 3. And then the larger number is going to give me the sign for my answer. Since my larger number is 5, my answer is going to be a negative. And then again, if we have a negative and a positive, we're still going to subtract. It doesn't matter the order. Subtract the 2, and the larger number is going to tell you the sign for your answer. So here I have a negative 2 plus 5. Well, I'm going to subtract them. Still 5 minus 2 is going to give me a 3. But now my larger number is a 5. And since my 5 is a positive, it doesn't have a negative symbol, my answer is going to stay a positive. All right, so the first three, these are the three problems at the bottom of 510. So this is where it's asking you to use a number line. You can do that, or you can just use this little cheat sheet chart. So I have a negative and a positive right here. So I'm going to subtract the 2, and they're the same number. So when I have a negative 2 and I jump 2 forward, I'm going to get 0. And remember, 0 is not positive and it's not negative. Here I have two different symbols, so I'm going to subtract. 5 minus 4 is 1. And the larger number is negative, so it's going to be a negative 1. And then here, negative 3 and a negative 3, they're both the same. So I'm going to add the two numbers together. So 3 plus 3 is 6. And then, since they're both negative, my answer is going to be negative. And that's it. Let's go to page 511. We kind of already went through this just by that chart. It kind of already went through everything. Here it's just telling you to add integers with the same sign. So you can kind of go through this. It's very similar to my chart. I just like my chart. It's just a real clear cut. This is what you do. So here's example 2, and it's just showing you with counters. You could make your own counters. All you got to do is get a scrap piece of paper, put a plus sign on one side and a minus on the other, and you can do it this way. I'm just going to do these 3 at the bottom, just using my chart though. Let's just do number 4. Here, just 7 plus 13. It just looks like a normal first, second grade problem. 7 plus 13 is 20. I don't need to worry about any symbol because I know it's just a 20. Now here I have 2 negatives. So if I look back up here, I have 2 negatives. I'm going to add. So 5 plus 8, or 8 plus 5, is going to give me 13. And since they're both negative, my answer must be negative. And it tells me right here. Number 6, I have 2 negatives. So again, when I have 2 of the same signs, I'm going to add. So 15 plus 2, or 2 plus 15, is going to give me 17. And they're both negative, so it has to remain negative. Number 7, I have a negative and a positive. So if I come up to my chart, negative, positive, I'm going to subtract. Just always subtract like you normally would. I can't take 2 and minus 11. I'm just going to do the normal subtraction. So 11 minus 2 is 9. And my answer is going to be the larger number, which is positive. It's going to stay positive. And then number 8, I have a positive and a negative. So coming up here, looking at my chart, I am going to subtract. So 10 minus 9 is 1. My larger number is negative, so that's going to stay a negative. Negative 31 plus a 31, I know that one's just going to be 0. So those, actually, bottom 3 examples is what example 3 was talking about, and these are the 3 that I just did at the bottom. So again, you can follow through these notes and see how they're getting their answer. But basically, if you're just following what this chart tells you, it works every single time. And that is it for lesson A.2. And so again, you have a 10-point problem or 10-point assignment in bigideas.com. And have a great week. Remember, I will be on live Google Meet meeting only on Thursday this week from 12 to 1. I kind of changed it up a little bit. So otherwise, you can email me any day and I will answer that as well. So have a great week, guys.